Welcome to Casey Cares, Kansas City's nonprofit voice. We're telling the stories of Kansas City nonprofits and the people behind them. Casey Cares is the intersection of the nonprofit and profit communities, making Kansas City a better place to live, work, and play. Casey Cares is proudly sponsored by the Ewing Marion Kaufman Foundation. I'm Ruth Baum-Biggis. Low and middle income neighborhoods struggle when it comes to getting financial backing for improvements across the board. Providing the financial capital is essential for making progress. Well, the Community Capital Fund has worked hard at providing this kind of support for community-driven and neighborhood-led revitalization projects. CCF is about planting the seeds for dreams to become a reality. How does the organization accomplish this? Well, here to tell us that story is Phyllis Hardwick, the Executive Director of the Community Capital Fund. Welcome to Casey Cares.
Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. Well, I do want to share a little bit with our audience. Before we got started, we were talking about kind of who's on first and how everything is interconnected. And that was so fun. I want to bring that into part of our conversation about the Community Capital Fund and what you all are doing, because I think connections are probably a really important aspect. But first, will you educate us a little bit about your capital fund? I think people sometimes go, "Ooh, that sounds like hard financial homework."
It does. The word capital can be extremely intimidating, but for us, it's grants. We give money out, no restrictions, typically just with the idea that folks will use the money however they said they wanted to use it to neighborhoods. And so we provide grants to neighborhoods and small businesses because those are two groups that are often left out of resources that they need to be able to do the work they do. And we think if they're funded well, our neighborhoods would be a better place to live, work, and play.
So as you do that, give us some parameters, though.
Mm-hmm.
Where do you serve? What do you do? And what don't you do?
That's a fantastic question. So where we serve, where are the areas that there are need, and we define that as low to moderate income neighborhoods in the 7 counties in the greater Kansas City area. And so whether that is Johnson County that actually does have pockets of neighborhood need, or Cass County here on the Missouri side, we see ourselves being an opportunity for neighborhoods that often are led by amazing leaders to be able to define what they need to do with their space and place in order for their neighborhoods to be more thriving. So if you think about it, you think about your own neighborhood, there may be a green space area that if left alone can particularly be an attractive place for people to illegally dump, because sometimes it can be hard to figure out what to do with your old tires. Well, a neighborhood will say, well, if we planted a garden there, not only will it be a great place for us to be able to come together as a neighborhood to have, weddings or neighborhood movie watch parties, but it'll also be a deterrent for illegal dumping. And so we actually provide the resources for the neighborhood to be able to do that, because to plant a couple trees is probably on a couple $1,000s. And if they had to go through kind of our traditional philanthropy sources, it can be pretty cumbersome to get access to grants to do that. And so we pride ourselves on making the process easy, simple, and being able to get those dollars to the neighborhoods that need them the most. What we don't do is housing. Given that we are a community-based group, a lot of folks ask us, do we do housing? We are just simply an advocate for neighborhood voice when it comes to housing challenges, but not necessarily do we directly impact or give grants for housing.
Well, I'm so glad you clarified what you don't do. I wouldn't want somebody to come to you and say, well, we need this for, a blighted house or something like that. The organization's been around since 2012, I believe. Can you talk a little bit about how it came to be?
Yeah, sure. It's a great story. OPCAP, which is a community development financial institution here in Kansas City, that's shorthand for nonprofit lender. They wanted to be able to take some of the work that they were doing and invest it back in neighborhoods. They thought a separate organization with a nonprofit status would be a good way to do that. So that was our founding, and we still do some work based on that. The Neighborhood Rising Fund was an opportunity to take some of what OPCAP was doing and put it back in neighborhoods. And that's a program that we still run. But since then, we've grown to kind of evolve our work to be whatever our neighborhoods and communities need. We're still in the midst of COVID, which is a tough time for everybody, and small businesses were an area that was uniquely impacted. And so we got asked by folks to take our model of community-based work, neighborhood-centric work, and apply it to small business support. And we did that. So we've grown from a team of 1 to a team of 5. We've grown from supporting about $200,000 of grants to touching about $3 to $4 million of grant opportunities. So this year has been a story of growth for us, but it's also been a story of service, and making sure that we continue to evolve our practices so that they can be applied to new areas, because making sure we have thriving neighborhoods is a thing that a lot of different industries touch.
You guys are rocking and rolling.
We are, and we try to do it on beat. That's my joke for you.
I love it. Well, we have to tell the secret. There is a DJ in her background.
There is a DJ in my background.
And well, let's just put it out there. We've got a dual couple in the nonprofit community. We found out.
We do. My husband has worked in nonprofits for quite a while. He works for Teach for America. And I know Chris who's the former executive director of Teach for America, who's now over at United Way, has been on this program. And they were a good team together doing some great work in the education space.
Well, I'm sure they'll keep doing it, even though they're at different organizations. Let's take just a side turn. I know this isn't directly talking about the fund, but how do you as a couple manage that situation of being at 2 nonprofits, big demands on time? So how have you all made that work in your family?
With a ton of help. Our kiddo goes to Early Start St. Mark, which is a child care center on 12th and Brooklyn. That has been amazing. He has 3 teachers that have a tremendous amount of education experience, I think over 60 years in his classroom. And so in a lot of ways, we feel like they are also teaching us as a family of how to support our little one, who is 9 months. We also just have a really, really big supportive village of friends and family that when there is a neighborhood meeting that I need to be at 6 o'clock because we want to support a neighborhood leader with an initiative that they're doing, or if there's a Saturday culture event to really make sure that teachers are feeling supported in this really, really challenging time, we have the freedom to be able to do that. So I have been a Kansas Cityan for just 12 years. My family is in Chicago. And so the fact that Spencer's family has welcomed me and has really provided resources to my kiddo is something I will forever be grateful for. But it takes more than 2 parents to raise a kiddo. And we've been privileged to have such supportive network that has really stepped in to help us out. We couldn't do it any other way, particularly as nonprofit leaders. It's service-based work that does not end at 5 o'clock.
Which I think some folks who are on the outside of the sector, when they say, I want to work in nonprofit, which is wonderful, but it's almost like there needs to be a reality check. You came, I believe, from education background?
I did. I started in education, and then I worked in the private sector after that, and now in the nonprofit sector.
Can you share what differences or maybe some tips for somebody who's looking to, enter this wonderful work, but demanding?
Yeah, put your skills to use. And so I actually hope that there's more people who come from the private sector who've really been able to sharpen some unique skills. I had a lot of people invest time in me for me to be able to learn the field of real estate development and commercial finance, corporate finance. And so I've been able to take some of those skills and apply them to our neighborhoods and to our small business work. And that has been a great opportunity. It's a unique combination for me to be able to impact communities with. And so I hope that more people who have been in the private sector or the public sector consider nonprofit work. But unless you've been in the public sector, you don't know that there is an emotional labor that happens after 5 o'clock if you're in nonprofit work. You just can't put down your books at the end of 5 o'clock and just restart something else. You're typically thinking about that work after that, and that can be emotionally taxing. And so having a culture that replenishes, refills, I hold my team to taking their days off in order for them to stay fully engaged, to be able to pour into our communities, is something unique that you have to be ready for if you're into the nonprofit space.
That's great advice. Thank you for that. I appreciate that so much. Well, let's get back to the fund. I didn't mean to take you far afield.
Oh, no, it's cool. I like to talk about all of it.
But I thought that's really important for folks to hear. So you mentioned the one fund The Rising
Neighborhood Rising Fund. Yeah.
Let's talk about some of the specific programs, activities that you've been able to put out there for neighborhoods.
Sure. And so the Neighborhood Rising Fund has been those small but mighty $3,000 to $5,000 grants. The neighborhoods can apply for to take on those projects that they know will really impact the ability to live, work, and play in their neighborhoods. Some of the other neighborhood-based funds we work is that we ran the Community Stabilization Fund through the Central City Economic Sales Tax. That group was really really had the foresight of knowing that COVID would be tough on a lot of families. And so potentially having a code violation on your house added to some of the challenges that folks have had through COVID, they wanted to provide resources to homeowners to be able to do that. And so we funneled those dollars directly through neighborhood associations to take on some of that work for neighborhoods east of Truce in the Central City Economic Sales Development Tax District, which is also work we're proud of. We've also started to partner with municipalities. They've seen our work with neighborhoods and said, hey, we could do a better job of getting dollars to hard to reach places. And that's typically those low to moderate income neighborhoods. And that's also those businesses owned by low to moderate business owners and people of color and women-led businesses as well. And so we, for instance, partnered with the city of Overland Park to get out some grant dollars to small businesses. In our first round of fund, we're proud to say was nearly 50% business owners of color. And another 40% of those owners were women as well. Nearly all low to moderate income business owners. And so we like to think that there is a desire from both philanthropy, corporations, as well as the civic sector and municipalities as well, to make sure that their resources are really hitting every element of our city. And they often need help to do that. And we step in to serve that function for them.
Tell us about Overland Park. The project
Sure.
here, because when I was reading through your material on your website, I did what probably a lot of people go. Overland Park, low to middle income. No, this is Johnson County.
They don't need any help out there, yeah. And they get that too. And it makes it really, really hard if you're a low to moderate income business owner in Overland Park to feel that people don't see your walk, your journey in kind of being a business owner, just because it is an area that is associated with wealth and affluence. Rightfully so. It does have some of the neighborhoods in our area that are the most affluent and the most wealthy. But they do actually have a growing sector of small business owners that even have commercial footprints. Sometimes these are retail stores. A lot of them are restaurants. A lot of them provide some other type of service that need support and need help. And not only are there an opportunity to make sure that Overland Park is an area that's accessible to all business owners, but they're also employers of a lot of low to moderate income families. And so people often ask me, how does the small business work connect with your neighborhood work? And I say easy. Often small businesses are the ones who are employing neighborhood folks. Those are the people who are employing your low to moderate income owners. And if you don't believe me, go to your local coffee shop and talk to the local barista. And you'll realize that their desire is to often live near the place of employment. And they were able to get a job at this small business because it fit what they needed at the time. And so to support those small businesses is really reinforcing and supporting residents in a lot of our low to moderate income neighborhoods, because we do think that building strong business actually builds strong neighborhoods.
Well, I was really tickled to see that. I thought that was great, being someone who's kind of been around the small business sphere. I think sometimes people don't realize the challenges that are out there.
And I'll be honest, we are a group that's based on the east side of Truce. 32nd and Wayne is where my office is. And so when we got the call from Overland Park, we thought it was interesting too. But the leadership of that city over there in the city manager's office is really thoughtful of making sure that Overland Park can be an accessible place to a wider swath of folks. And they've been very forward thinking in making sure that the support is there. In fact, they've taken their ARPA dollars, their federal recovery dollars, and put $3 million into small businesses in Overland Park, a fund that we will be starting the community engagement for soon. So not only is it an area that has been kind of really intentional about supporting all of their business owners, they've also wanted to use this as an opportunity to say, yes, we see you business owners, particularly business owners. One of my sessions will have 6 different languages to be translated translated to make sure that it is fully accessible to all the business owners in that city. So I actually say that to hopefully have it be a call of action to us here on the Missouri side. There's more that we can do. I went to the University of Missouri. I take no pride in driving to the state of Kansas to support small business work. I would love to be doing that type of engagement here on our side of the river. But we have to be a little bit more intentional about seizing the moment that this is, which is really one that can shorten the wealth gap that we see in our region and also provide opportunities for folks to grow their business far beyond the COVID moment that we're in. And that is a bet that Overland Park has made on business owners that you wouldn't think about, given the area that Overland Park is and the reputation it has.
We're talking with Phyllis Hardwick with the Community Capital Fund. It's so interesting in hearing you talk about trying to pull people together. Talk a little bit about how you do that as the organization, and you having to be the leader out there banging the drum.
Yeah, we have been able to do something called the Community Development Workshop for about 10 years. And that is actually the hallmark of Community Capital Fund. We bring folks who care about thriving neighborhoods together. That, of course, at the center is neighborhood leaders and community folk, but also it is folks in philanthropy and small business and in art and the arts that all want to participate to make sure that there's thriving neighborhoods in Kansas City. And so while the Community Development Workshop is one event convening to be able to do that, we also try to do that by building capacity and building kind of avenues of communication for various groups. We actually had a group that say, hey, we want to come out and learn a little bit more about what you do. What we always say is like, that's awesome. Let's go and walk in neighborhoods and let's introduce you to some community neighborhood leaders so you can hear directly what we do from whom we serve. And that is the type of attitude that we bring to the work. There's amazing leadership and talent happening in all of our neighborhoods in Kansas City, particularly our low to moderate income neighborhoods, just given the additional challenges that they have to navigate. And so it's just been humbling to invest in those folks, support their leadership, and actually give them some dollars to be able to fund their projects and ideas.
How often do you do the workshops?
We do them once a year, and it's a pretty cool big event. And so that is always something that we hope folks check out on our social, and follow us on social is what my community person told us to do. Community CCF, www.ccfkansascity.org has links to all of our social media accounts. And you can kind of get the details on all of our work there.
Okay, we were talking about the specifics of community workshops.
Yeah, the Community Development Workshop. Yeah, great topic. So we do have it once a year. It's typically in the late spring, early summer area. And it is usually organized around specific topics. And so this past year, of course, COVID was top of mind for a lot of our neighborhoods, and the support and resilience that neighborhoods show to get through COVID. They just wanted to learn from each other around that topic. Also supporting small business, because again, that was a huge part. And actually the spark that led to a lot of our small business efforts moving forward happened at the Community Development Workshop. This upcoming year, we'll listen to those neighborhood groups and hear what they want to talk about and curate a convening and content around those hot topics. And so that work will be happening soon, and my head of programming will take that on, and we'll be excited to debut it. We've had over 2,100 folks participate in the Community Development Workshops over the past 10 years. And so it really is a good place to be if you care about neighborhoods.
How else can folks engage with the organization?
The biggest way that you can engage in the organization is making sure that you are a very active member of your neighborhood. All of our neighborhood associations and leaders are always looking for additional folks in their neighborhoods to support the work that they're doing. And so to support Community Capital Fund is to actually support your own neighborhood and making sure that you are providing the capital, the social capital in particular, to make sure that your neighborhood is a thriving place. Beyond that, we are a nonprofit, and so fundraising is a part of what we do. We actually have a Giving Tuesday program where I will just be able to brag on the work that our neighborhoods and small business owners are doing. That is coming up, Giving Tuesday, the Tuesday after the Thanksgiving holiday. You can sign up for that on ccfkansascity.org. Look, that rolled off the tongue that time. And lastly, I do think that there is a moment in time we have right now with ARPA, and frankly, with a lot that we are thinking about on how we can recover from COVID, that we can have be a transformational time in our country. Not since since probably the GI Bill has there been an opportunity to have a moment that actually started as a challenging moment for our country, really redefine what it looks like for folks moving forward. And so similar to how working class folks, and particularly the white working class, benefited from the GI Bill to be able to create generational wealth for their families that is still paying off to this day. There was more small businesses created in the first couple months of this past year than all of the previous 2 years combined. And if that is not an opportunity to invest in those small business owners through grant-based capital, say, hey, you trust the vision and direction that you want to do. We know if we get you successful, we will be able to hire more low to moderate income workers. Let's make sure that those folks get that grant-based capital so that they can continue to thrive, because I do think it's an opportunity to close the wealth gap here in our country and here in our region. And if Overland Park is doing it with what we think about Overland Park, and they're having that foresight and they're putting those dollars into those hard to reach places, I think that should be a call to action for the other areas of our city to consider doing the same thing.
You mentioned the GI Bill and how it probably benefited. Well, it did benefit. The majority were people who were white. We are in a different time, age, stage now. How do you see navigating that? Here you are. You mentioned Overland Park, for example, and there's diversity there, but probably not as many people of color as are over in Truce neighborhoods. So how do you, as the Capital Fund, navigate that and break down barriers?
By presenting an opportunity for folks to do the same thing in harder to reach areas of our city. I would love to see a similar grant-based program ran over in KC that is ran over in Overland Park, just because while I am assured that those dollars in Overland Park expects us to make sure that we are creating an opportunity for those dollars to go to hard to reach places. That's our artist community. Those are our business owners of color and our women-owned businesses. There's a lot of groups that have been locked out of other support beyond that. That is an expectation the city of Overland Park has put on, one that we are proud to execute on. We do think that there can be a similar opportunity here in KC so that you shouldn't have to be a business owner of color in Overland Park to get help. And while there's a lot of organizations doing amazing things for businesses, I think about, the Prospect Business Association. I think about KC BizCare, which actually is in the city of KC I do think that there are some organizations doing some work. The thing that has been left out is that grant-based support. So what I would like to do is make sure that knowing the segregation that we have in our city and knowing the pockets of area and need that we have the best, let's take this as an opportunity to make sure that those folks get access to support as well. Because I don't want to just close the wealth gap on the Kansas side, right? I want to be a part of a more metro-wide solution. And I think that this is a unique opportunity to be able to do that.
So are you talking to those other organizations, you go-getter?
I am talking to those other organizations, and we hope to put something in front of the city of Kansas City soon, just to give them the opportunity to say, yes, we think that this is something we can explore, or no. And I think if they say no, that is, while in their prerogative, I think it's up to all of us as residents. I live in KC east of Truce. I'm going to have a lot of questions about where we could put those dollars to make sure that they're going to hard to reach places in our city. And I think that is something that we all should be a part of moving forward, because it's through that engagement. One thing I did leave off on the City of Overland Park program is that there is 6 months specifically carved out for engagement with business owners. So we actually create a program that's aligned with what they say they need. And then there's an additional area of opportunity where we actually will come up with guidelines that folks will be able to respond to. And so I don't think you should just stand up programs. We've done that in our city. It actually doesn't work very well. Often the dollars go to places that we didn't intend them to go to. And we often have a hard time figuring out how to shift on the back end. So let's create something that does engage community, does engage both workers and small business owners, to really take advantage of this moment in time, because having significant resources come from DC into our city is not necessarily, I think, we could count on happening regularly. So how can we make sure that we get it right this one time?
And maybe create a flow beyond that. Maybe
create a flow beyond that. And small businesses are great. They grow, they thrive. And so it's an investment you can make early that can pay off. I mean, the owner of Spanx will tell you it took her $5,000 in order for her to grow that company. Most places will tell you it's a $10,000 round of friends and family grant-based support that allows for a business to launch and grow and thrive. It's not a ton of dollars. It's not a ton of dollars that we're talking about being able to give to businesses that I think can really make a difference.
It sounds like the pandemic may have given you some challenges with the organization, but it sounds like there's some pandemic positives that you all have landed on.
I couldn't say it better. That's absolutely the case. I don't know if we ever thought we would be in small business work if it wasn't a city saying, hey, I think you can take what you guys know about neighborhoods and engaging community and apply it to this new opportunity. We always knew that there was a deep connection between small businesses and thriving neighborhoods. I mean, my head of programming, who comes from economic development, will tell you that. He feels like it is the secret sauce that leads to really, really special places for people to live, work, and play. But the connection has not been so clear for us at CCF since the pandemic laid that bare for us.
Since we're getting our footing, I guess, with the pandemic or realizing the challenges that have presented, what do you as the leader of the organization maybe see as the next 5 years for you all, where you're headed, where you're going?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing we want to do is we want to be able to take what we know is true about community engagement and give those keys to everybody. Everything that I'm talking about is not necessarily for the benefit of CCF. It's for the benefit of us to reconsider and redefine what it means to truly engage community. If you do not have someone that has a text-based relationship with you, who will call you to let you know when you did something wrong and you missed the mark on something, that you take that feedback and implement into your program, then you've missed the mark. If you think that it means to engage community is just by, giving out a press release and holding a listening session instead of canvassing, and not only just canvassing, but canvassing with folks who can speak multiple languages, then you have missed the mark on what it means to truly engage community. So that is kind of something that we want to support Kansas City in redefining, because we do think over at CCF, because we've been so engaged in neighborhoods, we've had to learn to do that stuff. Right. And we've had to learn to do it in a way that's simple, that's digestible, that a lot of folks can engage with. And it's led to a lot of the results that we've had. So it's been great to have partners say, hey, I think you guys are on to something. Come help us. And that's been a call that we've been able to answer to, and one that we hope to continue to support our greater metro region in.
And I know that's where you started. You were a community activist. You were involved in your own neighborhood.
I was and still am. I just gave a business owner a hard time about bike lanes a couple of weeks ago. So yes, it is something. I actually think it's the thing that's special. I actually had the Centurions program come to the Northeast, and I sat on a panel with those folks, and we were talking about what we want to see in the neighborhoods. Even though many of them lived in suburbs and never had been to the historic Northeast, what we want neighborhoods to be, we absolutely agreed on 95% of. And so I think that there is an opportunity for us to all connect over shared visions of neighborhoods, while still empowering people in neighborhoods to make those decisions. Let's stop filtering stuff through very sophisticated nonprofits. I love nonprofits. I came from the nonprofit world. I actually worked at Teach for America a point in my career as well. But we can't just solely rely on nonprofits to be able to filter our connections to community. We need to be able to empower community directly. And so CCF, we often are trying to give attention back to the grants that we make and the grantees that we make, because we think that's where the change is happening and that's where the work is happening.
Well, if you want to know more about the Community Capital Fund, if you think you've got something in your neighborhood that would qualify, go to their website, ccfkansascity.org. Check it out. There's something for you all to make a difference in your neighborhood, in your community. And Phyllis, we thank you so much for your time, and keep doing the great work that you're doing.
Thank you. I appreciate the invitation. It's awesome when people will sit and listen to me for 45 minutes. That's awesome. So thank you so much, Ruth, for inviting us.
Anytime. And thank you for tuning into KC Cares, Kansas City's nonprofit voice. We're produced by Charitable Communications, and we're proudly sponsored by the Ewing Marion Kaufman Foundation. If you'd like to be a guest on KC Cares or underwriting opportunities, please visit our website at kccaresonline.org and spread the love. You can find us on Facebook and Twitter at KC Cares Radio and on Instagram at KC Cares Online. Miss us on our webcast? Catch us on ESPN 1510, 94.5 FM, Saturday mornings at 8 a.m. Thank you for joining us on KC Cares.